Live, baby.
Oh, really quickly. So I was complaining that I have no food, right? I was like, dang, I don't got no food. I'm hungry. You know what I got though?
What did you get?
I have Sarah Singer Sweets.
Sarah Singer Sweet.
Even though we fake got beef.
Sarah.
Because I'm doing things. Oh wait, it wasn't airtight. So
Sarah.
Can I finish? Turn this freaking Michael. Anyway, Sarah Singer Sweets, special treats, good to eats with a Z. Oh, I got barked. I know this is so corny, but shout out to Sarah for wearing
the Black Wrestlers Matter hoodie.
Wrestlers Matter hoodie. You can still order them. Just because the campaign is done doesn't mean that you can't get them.
I'm actually about to get one.
You can literally, or I haven't even ordered one yet. That's how much. I'm not gonna.
I'm poor.
Anyway, I haven't ordered one yet, but you can still order it. The longer you wait to order, the longer it takes to ship. So if you order it now, I believe it doesn't ship until 2020. But that's fine because the first time you go out in 2020, you go to work, whatever. Black Wrestlers Matter. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's just these people I know, Culture 316. So get your Sarah Singer Sweets and your Black Wrestlers Matter hoodie. Sarah Singer Sweets at Sarah Singer Sweets with a Z. S-A-R-A Sweets.
Sarah!
At S-A-R-A Singer with an A. Sweets with a Z. On Instagram. And you get to the link. These are milk chocolate chip pecan.
Yo, I hate you.
Live from Brooklyn, New York. Come on, whoa! You're listening to the Culture 316 podcast.
What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Jay the Creative.
I'm currently stuffing my face with cookies. I think sweet. I am the icon, the the legend, the cult of personality.
With the pitch.
The icon Angela Carter.
And this is Culture 316. I forget what episode this is. This is season 2. I think this is episode 9.
Oh, let's look.
Survivor Series was episode 8.
So this is...
I don't even remember.
No, Survivor Series episode 7. We're in episode 8 right now.
We're in episode 8 right now. Ha ha ha. Episode 8, season 2.
Yes.
But we have a really good show for you guys, and we're not going to waste any time. So let's just jump right into it. So the startup question. TMZ recently caught up with Tennessee Mayor Glenn Jacobs, also known as WWE superstar Kane, and he voiced his opinion and told TMZ that he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So my question to you is, do you think Kane deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame?
Well, the last couple of years... Well, yes. Let me just say yes. 100%. And I think he's going there. I don't think he's going this year. I think he would be one of the other people besides Undertaker to go in twice. Because they'll go in as the Brothers of Destruction. And then they can go in separately because they're own separate careers.
Right.
Personally, I don't think he's going to go in yet.
Right.
I think what happens is... usually they wait until someone is no longer active really in the company to add them to the Hall of Fame. Like Ric Flair, I think, is the only real representative of him still being very active. Well, not very active, but his final match in WWE anyway was coming up.
Right.
That same weekend.
Yeah.
But I can't really think of anybody else who was, well, Goldberg, but that doesn't really count.
Technically, Triple H is a Hall of Famer now.
That's true. Okay, so maybe
Shawn
my
Michaels,
argument...
but he doesn't really... Well, he wrestled after being inducted.
Well, yeah. So the point is, they're usually inducted, and they're not really about to... they're not really, like, super active in the company at that time.
Right. Like
Kane, in my opinion, if they ask Kane to come back and do, like, a 3-month run, I think he's... he's mayor, so he can't really do a 3-month run. But, I'm sure if within the next couple years, whatever, if let's say he doesn't become mayor for the next term, they go, hey, can you come back for 3 months and put this guy over, Keith Lee over, because that would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah, come back and put Keith Lee over. Yeah, I'm sure he would put Keith Lee over in like a little 1-2 month thing or whatever. You know, so I do think 100% that he is going into the Hall of Fame. I think who headlines this year, if you had to ask me today, November, how many months, 5-6 months before WrestleMania, December. No, today's December. January, February, March, April. We are 5 months
away.
5 months away from WrestleMania. If you had to ask me now, I think you put The Undertaker in. And I think he headlines. And I think you have Kane induct him.
Right. That would be poetic.
Yeah.
That would be poetic. I do believe that Kane should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I wouldn't want him inducted this year because Kane is a guy that deserves to headline the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But I do think that he deserves to be inducted. But I feel like there are multiple WWE superstars who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame who are still active, maybe not in the ring, but they are active within the company. And I feel like WWE is at this space right now where they are going to begin to utilize a lot of their legends and a lot of their Hall of Famers for things outside of the ring because they have the resources to do it. We see WWE backstage, and we see guys like Christian and guys like Paige and guys like CM Punk going on. And these are people who are at the moment are not active in the ring, but have this space and this opportunity to kind of be involved in something WWE without necessarily stepping in the ring. And we're going to see a lot more of that. Yeah. So I don't think that inactivity or activity is going to be a thing that has to deal with it going forward with WWE, because going forward with all that they're doing and all they're expanding into, there's going to be opportunities for guys to be utilized in WWE somehow, some way. Right. But we want to know your opinion on it. Should Kane be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? Be sure to comment and tell us in the comments. But we're going to move on to our trending wrestling topic. So you tell us what we're going to be talking about next.
Well, we spoke about this a little bit yesterday. And if you haven't, please go check out the Jobber Tears podcast episode.
Yes.
From yesterday, we got the pleasure of being able to, they kind of stepped into our studio. We got to step into their studio. It was so much fun.
Literally so much fun.
It's always fun with them. So that was great. Please go check out their episode. Link is in their bio. Jobber Tears podcast, everything.
Ting and ting and ting.
So, right, ting and ting and ting. So, Corey Graves has been very much in the news for Mauro Ranallo. But the trending wrestling topic that I wanted to bring up before we even get into the Mauro situation is on After the Bell, Corey Graves had made some remarks about Charlotte, saying, sorry, I'm drinking ginger ale, so I got to burp.
It's the acidic release.
Sorry. So sorry. So Charlotte, he made some comments about Charlotte Flair, saying that he feels like she's just going through the motions, and he feels like she doesn't really think that, she just looks like, matter of fact, let me get his exact quote so that I'm not misquoting him really quickly. I'm going to do this really fast. Okay, the music I was singing is distracting me. Corey Graves, Charlotte Flair, there we go. No, this is not what happened. I do not want to watch a video of it. I just want to see the transcription. Okay. This is what he said.
Okay.
In my opinion, Charlotte Flair has never felt less important than she does right now. This is Charlotte Flair we're talking about. She has a resume a mile long. In the few short years, she has cemented herself as one, if not the greatest female superstar in WWE history. By the time it's all said and done, I'm pretty sure we will be referring to the Queen as such. But something about what's been happening lately just feels off. This whole tag team thing with Charlotte, finding a different partner week after week, it just doesn't click. I'm not feeling it. It looks to me like Charlotte isn't feeling it. You can see it on her face. Charlotte Flair looks like she's going through the motions and getting through the night. I don't mean this as an insult. She's a close friend of mine. I have all the respect in the world for Charlotte, and I'm not saying anything negative about her or her ability. I'm saying what is happening around Charlotte Flair has made her feel less than Charlotte Flair for some reason. He also criticized the storyline with Charlotte and Becky Lynch, which I think the world is, because they hated each other for the past year and a half, going all the way back to SummerSlam of last year when Becky turned on her.
Right.
So, it just was really irritating. He said that Charlotte carried the WrestleMania 35 main event. Yeah. He said that Charlotte is the best athlete in the entire business, which I can agree with athletically. because I've had this argument with multiple coworkers. Well, one coworker about this. He said he misses the queen, the villainous queen that just kicked everyone's ass because she was superior. She was like, maybe Charlotte needs to take a break and come back and stuff like that. And then Charlotte responded to that, quote tweeted the video and said he's not entirely wrong. So then that went on Twitter and became this big thing of people feel like Charlotte is being underutilized this year.
You know what's funny? Because earlier this year and even last year, the same people or the same amount of people were complaining that Charlotte was being overused and oversaturated and being put out and shoved down everybody's throats. There was one point, there was a couple people on Twitter that compared Charlotte to Roman Reigns.
I think they've been comparing Charlotte to Roman Reigns since 2016.
Yeah, but like I feel like it's just very, very interesting to see how like the flip flop. But I feel like in my personal opinion is Charlotte in the main event picture of the women's division at the moment? No. Absolutely not.
Well, but I guess you could say that she kind of is because Becky's her partner, and they're both going after the tag titles.
Right, that's me.
So you can kind of say that she is, but not really.
Right. I feel like we can't sit here and ask WWE to push new talent or to put other people over, and then get mad when people who were featured prominently are starting to kind of shrink, kind of in relevance for a moment. Like, for example, with this whole feud that's happening, Asuka pinned Charlotte. Kairi Sane also pinned Charlotte. Kairi Sane was somebody a year ago who was definitely underutilized. Even earlier this year when it came to her and Asuka as a tag team, they were definitely underutilized. Yeah. Now she has a pinfall victory over Charlotte Flair. Rhea Ripley is another one who has a pinfall victory over Charlotte Flair. So I feel like this is a time where Charlotte is putting over newer, younger talent, because it's just like when you look at Charlotte's career on the main roster, she has done things in 5 years that most wrestlers don't get to do for 10 to 15.
Yeah.
She's main evented WrestleMania. She's been a multiple time champion. She has played the heel really well, played the face really well. She's done all these things.
I don't know about really well.
The only thing that she hasn't done there's two things she hasn't done, which is probably going to happen before the end of her career. Win Money in the Bank and win the Women's Royal Rumble. And those two things are inevitable. But other than that, she has literally done it all. And this is what happens when you get pushed too fast, too quickly, and kind of like too hard, is you accomplish all these things. And it's just like, okay, what's there to do next? You know what I mean? So,
right. So here's my thing. To the people that are saying Charlotte Flair is being underutilized, that literally is the biggest crock of BS that I've heard ever in life. It's just like, dude, Charlotte Flair main evented WrestleMania. She was
one of the first women to do it, by the way.
Bruh, she was one of the first women to main event WrestleMania with Becky and Ronda. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love Charlotte. Like, if you know me, you know that I love Charlotte to death. Like, I love all four of the four horsewomen. So anytime I ever criticize them in any way, I'm never trying to be like rude in my criticizing or anything.
Right.
But as far as Charlotte goes, Charlotte Flair, like I said, I love her, but she was a part of the main event of WrestleMania, the first ever main event of WrestleMania, right? And we're talking this year only, because we can go back. Main event of WrestleMania. She was in the Money in the Bank ladder match. She's been in the past 3. No, she wasn't.
Just 2.
No. So she main evented WrestleMania. She main evented WrestleMania with Ronda and Becky. She was SmackDown Women's Champion 3 times this year. 3. She beat Asuka in March. The end of March.
Broke her streak.
She
broke WrestleMania.
No. I'm talking this year
alone, right? Okay.
This is just this year. She beat Asuka for the SmackDown title in April or in March. She beat Becky for the title in May or in June or whenever that was. Mm-hmm. And then she beat Bayley for the title last month in October. October? No, well, it wasn't last month. She beat Bayley for the title in October. So that just this year alone, she was champion 3 times. She's featured in the top rivalries You know, she's gone after the championship countless amount of times. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just this year alone. Let's go back to 2018. 2018, she beats Asuka Streak at WrestleMania.
Right.
2018, she's in the biggest women's rivalry of, 2018 versus Becky Lynch for literally the ass end of the year.
Right.
From August all the way to now, they're, still having matches. Let's keep going. The year prior, 2017, she wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. She was featured very prominently in the SmackDown Live. Now, I do know that she took like a couple of weeks off, but she's never once gone a month without taking time off. Let's go back to 2016. She hot potatoed the championship with Sasha Banks. Absolutely killed. They absolutely killed Sasha Banks's momentum in 2016 with the losses that she took, with the L's that she took to Charlotte. Let's go back to 2015. Charlotte Flair, the last ever Divas champion. She was in that WrestleMania. The women's WrestleMania match, the Sasha, Becky, Charlotte. She won the first WWE the new version of the women's championship. Charlotte Flair is not underutilized in any way, shape, or form. Charlotte Flair, in fact, is overutilized. She's a 10-time champion and she's been on the roster for 4.5 years. No, well, yeah, 4.5 years. 5 years. July will make 5 years since she
debuted.
Becky and Sasha came up to the main roster. And she's already a 10-time champion. She's done what she has done in 4 years will take some women 15 years to accomplish.
She can retire in January of 2020, and she has the resume of a first ballot Hall of Famer.
She could literally just retire and go, okay, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? She has done so much. So I kind of agree with Corey Graves in the sense of maybe she should take some time off. We saw the wonders that it did for Sasha Banks, which we'll definitely get into a little bit later in our main topic for the show. But it did wonders for Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks came back with such a renewed focus and a renewed mind. It does just taking some time off may do wonders for people.
Right.
Maybe it's a nagging injury. Maybe it's just
maybe she just needs to get inspired.
Yeah,
wrestlers are artists, okay? And just like any other creative, sometimes you need to take a break in order to get inspired, to immerse yourself in something else so that you can approach your craft with a new sense of doing. Just like having a new sense of urgency, having inspiration. Like wrestlers are artists, just like anybody else is an artist, and any artist just needs a space sometimes.
I'm not saying that I would, move her permanently.
Right.
But put Charlotte on NXT for a few months. Even if it's just, and I know that Vince will probably never do this because Charlotte is like his woman.
Baby.
Charlotte is like his woman. So, I don't know if Vince would ever do that, but put her in NXT for 6 months. Let her have another takeover match.
Right.
Let her go in there and have matches with girls like Io Shirai and Candice LeRae and Bianca Belair, Mia Yim. Let her go down there and just have some killer matches, re-inspire her character or something, and just, get her back. I love Charlotte. I love the Queen. I love her gimmick. I think Charlotte is great, but she's very directionless right now. And her character really is just not, it's not going anywhere.
It's stagnant right now, but I feel like that's
you know what?
That's a lot of different characters, but we got to move because
I know, but you know what? She's having not in as far as the materialistic things, but as far as the inspiration, she's having a very similar year to Sasha and Bayley last year. Sasha and Bayley's 2018 was trash.
Oh yeah, it was booty butt cheeks. But
yeah,
we gotta move because we'll be talking about this all day. But if y'all feel the same way about this, or if you feel different, comment below. Let us know how you feel about where Charlotte is creatively right now. But we are going to dive into our main topic, which is mental health. And it's mental health by way of this incident between Corey Graves and Mauro Ranallo. For those of you who are not aware, during NXT TakeOver Chicago, there was a tweet that was put out by Corey Graves kind of insinuating...
War Games.
War Games. Well, Chicago, War Games, same difference. There was a tweet sent out by Corey Graves kind of insinuating that Mauro was kind of drowning out the other voices on commentary. And I'll read the tweet verbatim. Just for the record, guys, I know you wouldn't know it, but there's actually a WWE Hall of Famer and a former Ring of Honor champion on commentary. I'd imagine they have a lot to offer. Hashtag NXT TakeOver War Games. This is put out on November 23rd at 8:34 p.m. because I had to make sure that I have all my facts correct. This tweet kind of took off. Social media was set ablaze, and people had a field day. As a result, Mauro Ranallo was not on commentary the following night on Survivor Series, nor was he on NXT of that same week. And it led to, and there was a lot of rumors kind of going around saying that Mauro took a week off because of the comments made by Corey. And Corey ended up going on his After the Bell podcast, which is WWE backed, of course, and he went on to offer an apology to Mauro Ranallo or to any other person that this may have offended. Mauro Ranallo has gone on record in some WWE content as well as a documentary on Showtime called Bipolar Rock and Roller, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend it, which highlights his history with mental health disorders. So I want to ask the question, considering all this, was Corey's tweet tone deaf and insensitive?
100,000%. So here's my issue with this tweet, and I said it. I also said this last night on the Jobber Tears show. You don't disrespect your coworker like that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like if you have a problem with the way that something is being handled, you tell me what your problem is. You know, you don't go on Twitter for millions and billions of people to see and you disrespect your coworker like this. It's just not right. It's not right at all. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not fair. And then to go on your damn podcast and do the most half-ass BS apology. I said he didn't even mention Mauro by name. He goes, I said some tweets. They were they caused a ruckus. That's basically what he said. And he was just like, I apologize for anyone who was offended. No.
Say his name and say sorry.
People were offended.
And
not just anyone
so.
No. People were offended, and your coworker, who is on record having tweeted before he deleted his Twitter, he tweeted, I'm not having a good week, but I'm going to push through. This is what you do, especially somebody who's gone through depression before. That's not okay.
It's not.
And Corey had issues with tweets earlier this year. And then the whole thing with his ex-wife or whatever, and the whole Carmella thing, which really wasn't his fault.
It wasn't, and that woman was crazy. But
even though I had to follow her on Instagram to get the tea, because I was like, oh, and then she had locked the Instagram and then deleted it. But
I was tight.
No, I followed it though, so I was getting the tea. I was looking at her Insta stories. I was like, oh, Corey, you doing to it? But then whatever, the real story came out or whatever have you. I don't know them personally, so whatever.
Right.
But getting back on track, my point is, you basically said that, and he didn't insinuate anything, because you had said it earlier that he insinuated that Mauro talks too much. He said Mauro talks too much. That's basic. That's what he said. Like, it's not even like, because insinuating something is being like, that's what he said.
He said it plain out, yeah.
Clearly, Mauro talks too much. Now, if he would have went like, yo, dude, like, I feel like, for certain things, I feel like you should let them talk a little bit more, because like, I feel like they really have some good insight as well. But, excuse me. Sorry. Mauro is the voice of NXT.
Absolutely.
No one complains that everyone complains that Michael Cole talks too much. But Corey doesn't complain that Michael Cole talks too much. What tweet has he ever posted that Michael Cole talks too much?
Well, I mean, a reason as to why he doesn't do that is because he kind of runs the commentary section as far as W is concerned. But
that's my point. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna tell Michael Cole that. You're not gonna go tell Vic Joseph that.
So why are you gonna tell
Dio
Mauro
Madden Or Jerry the King Lawler.
Or Samoa Joe now.
Or Samoa Joe.
Well, actually, he kind of complimented Samoa Joe on Twitter, but...
The point is, you're not going to say that to anybody else because you know that that's disrespectful. But you say it to somebody who you know has gone through depression, you know has gone through certain things, and then you pull a cop out and go, oh, well, it was just for characters, blah, blah, blah. Listen, let me explain something to y'all, and I'm going to curse, and it is what it is. Being a heel in 2019 is not an excuse for doing some fuck shit, and that's what it is.
Period.
It's not an excuse. I'm not the biggest fan of MJF, but, you know, he does what he does. But there are some people that will go on Twitter and go on here and go, I'm just being a heel, yet they're being incredibly disrespectful and insensitive. Being a heel in 2019 is not an excuse for doing some fuck shit. Now,
I'm going to go off of that because I feel like, number one, that's correct. Number two, I feel like when you said, well, Corey wouldn't say that about X, Y, and Z. Exactly. Corey wouldn't say that about X, Y, and Z. I feel like maybe he doesn't have the same issue that he has with Mauro as he does with he doesn't have, or maybe in his mind, he doesn't see other announcers having the same quote unquote problem. But it's just like, in addition to what you're hearing, we also have to be sensitive to the fact that production and the people in gorilla position are people who are literally feeding these guys, not lines per se, but saying, hey, this is what you need to highlight. This is the voice that needs to be prominent. So it's just like, nigga, who are you to be talking about somebody else and you don't know what's being said in gorilla? For all we know, Hunter could be like, yeah, we really want Mauro's voice highlighted. We really want that out there. And if it's an NXT product, it's under his creative direction. So it's like, if you're going to talk to anybody, if you're going to talk about anybody, then you need to go to Hunter before you go to Mauro because he's the one that's producing the show, which means that it ultimately falls on him. Now, in addition to that, another thing that I kind of want to highlight, because one of the things that I saw online was, oh, these guys are too soft, Mauro's too soft, or people who are sensitive are too soft. And let me just explain to you something. I feel like what ends up happening is that there is a large portion of the wrestling fan base that is anti-PC. You may have seen the term politically correct in mainstream news, and I feel like that is carried over into other facets of culture. And I feel like what happens is that people use that whole, well, you know, we're tired of being politically correct attitude, and they kind of bring that energy into everything else. In particular, in this case, professional wrestling. And I feel like anti-PC culture has attempted to shun empathy. Like, what is so bad about understanding somebody else's plight and being like, you know what? Considering what you were going through, considering your condition, I'm not going to make this remark about you. I'm not going to say this thing about you. Is it that hard to be so empathetic to say, you know what? Even if I don't understand what the big fuss is, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to do this because I know that this is going to have an impact. Huh?
Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame.
Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, but it's just like, I just don't understand how this adherence and this caution to talking about minorities or mental illness has been looked down upon. Like, it's as soft. Like, how understanding somebody else's plight and being sensitive to somebody else's plight is soft or bad or like demonized or criminalized. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Everybody wants to get Twitter famous. Like, this decade has proven that all you gotta do is post some bullshit on Twitter and you'll be famous.
Do anything for clout. And it's just like, but it's just so unfortunate. But like, the reason why I say this is to say this, because this is kind of where culture comes in. And this is kind of our stance as a brand, is that we need to stand up for minorities, for people with mental illnesses, because at the end of the day, these are narratives. These are people that have been around, and these are narratives that have been around that have not traditionally been at the forefront when they need to be recognized.
And for clarification, we're not just meaning black people when we say minorities. We're talking about everybody who has felt marginalized. You know, black people mostly, but when we're speaking about mental illness, anybody with a mental illness
has been marginalized.
Period. It don't matter who you are. Keep going.
So I want to kind of take the time to highlight that, and I want to encourage anybody who watches Culture 316 that if you have somebody in your life that has a mental illness, Take your time. Do research on mental illness, the different types of mental illnesses, whether that be bipolar disorder, whether that be depression, anxiety, multiple personality disorder, bipolar disorder. These are very real things. I'm encouraging people to do their research about it and to talk about it so that you can be better educated, so that you can learn how to deal with the people in your life the way that they should be dealt with. Okay, instead of just saying that person's crazy, or that person's bugging out, or that person is too soft when I make this remark, you need to do the research and educate yourself on these mental disorders, because these are narratives that are being pushed to the forefront of media. And guess what? A lot of times there's people around us that are dealing with these things and we have no idea. And we just need to be more sensitive to this. But yeah, that was like the biggest talking point as far as I had with mental illness. But I do want to talk about the fact that this isn't even the first time that mental illness has shown itself in pro wrestling.
As far as mental illness, not having shown itself previously, we can date back to, this year. Back in April, Sasha Banks took a break. Everybody said, well, not everybody.
Brad Shepard. And he's a piece of oh my God.
That's mental illness on 20. There were quite a few people, and Ryan Satin is not excluded from this. There were quite a few dirt sheets that were spreading this story of Sasha Banks and Bayley crying on the floor because they lost the tag titles. They went so far as to say that it happened in the hotel room. In the hotel, and they were on the floor crying and being babies. I'm sure if Bayley was crying and being a baby, she wouldn't be SmackDown Women's Champion right now.
Right.
And she wouldn't have had the title for the majority of the year. She's been champion since June.
It's now
lost
December.
it for a week and then got it back. She's been champion for the whole year. But my point to bring up Sasha Banks is she comes back in August, and then in September, they do the Chronicle on her. Basically, her documenting her time away from WWE. This goes all the way back to the injury that happened with Paige. And when Paige got back in the ring, maybe a little bit earlier than she should have, they did the routine spot that they were doing at every house show match, and Sasha kicked her in the back, and Paige injured her neck, and she can't wrestle again. People were attacking her. Sasha Banks, she injures people. She does this, that, and the fourth. And she states in her chronicle that it started from there. And it's just not fair when, there are so many people online who don't understand the stuff that it takes to be a professional wrestler in 2019. On Twitter, the people that are on Twitter, the people that are on any version of social media just kind of feel like they create their own narrative for whatever happened, and then they feel like they can just go and attack someone. That, she took a break. She was just like, I just can't do this right now.
Right.
And I'm sure a little bit of it did attribute to the fact that they just were not using Sasha Banks.
Right.
They threw them a bone with the Women's Tag Team Championships, took them off at WrestleMania. Sasha states in her chronicle, she was ready to go before that. She said WrestleMania was incredibly miserable for her. And now I can't even really watch that match for real because I look at her in the gear and in the hair and everything. I'm just like, yo, she is not okay.
Right.
At this time. And it's not fair for people online to feel like they can just create their own narrative. Sasha Banks said she just needed time off. She said she hadn't seen her real hair in 7 years. She hadn't heard her real name in 7. She just needed time. And it makes sense. Some people just need time off, which goes all the way back to the Charlotte thing. Maybe Charlotte needs time off. But to tie it all in a bow, the point is mental illness is a real thing. And I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, they're just being, oh, well, if too politically correct and blah, 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 and all this extra stuff. No. Mental illness is a real thing. And I think people, and now Twitter's never going to change, and I don't expect Twitter to ever change.
Right.
But I feel like if people were educated on situations, they wouldn't go off and say these things and make these decisions and not understand how deep that can affect someone. There's people who walk around with mental illness who don't know, and they just say dumb shit.
Right.
Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea. And I'm not even trying to make a joke of this either.
This is real.
This is real.
This is real.
You know, Hulk Hogan is a habitual liar. The amount of stories that he's told, I don't care what he's done for the business. You go off and you say what you say about all of black people. You explicitly say, I am a racist, yet every time you bring it up, they're like, oh, well, Hulk Hogan, all he said was the N-word. No.
He said that he was a racist.
He said, I am a racist. My point is, mental illness is a real thing, and I think people need to start realizing that everybody has gone through something like this before. Some people go through it undiagnosed, but then you have people like Mauro Ranallo who lives with this every day. You know who else has bipolar disorder? AJ Lee. I read it in her book.
Crazy is my superpower.
She was diagnosed with bipolar from when she was a kid, and AJ Lee went through some stuff. Like, reading her book, like, I just couldn't even believe like all of the things that she's been through. And it's crazy to me. AJ Lee went through some stuff, okay? And they use that as a storyline. I also think WWE, you know, and all companies, I'm not even singling out WWE at this point. I think every company, you know, and WWE, because it's the biggest one with the biggest television, and I think AEW should 100% learn from this example. They had AJ Lee kind of do the crazy girl mental illness storyline, which was not okay in hindsight. 2013, 2012, 2011, I wasn't aware of that. Wasn't really aware of it because it wasn't as known as it is today. These storylines cannot happen anymore.
Absolutely not.
They can't happen. You know, the storyline with we just had early last year with the fat shaming and it was like Piggy James all over again.
Not even just that, but then we have the fat shaming. We have Maria and Mike Kanellis with emotional abuse. That was not okay. The love triangle is whatever with the Rusev and Bob and Lana. That's a whole other story. That's just a really bad creative decision. But emotional abuse is not something to be made fun of or made a mockery of. Mental illness is not something to be made fun of or made a mockery of. Especially if you don't have any creative direction for that particular story. If you're all just trying to try it out, don't try that out. Try Jesus. Try some new food. Don't try out storylines about mental illness. Try traveling to a new country.
Get into these Saracen the Sweets. You can try these.
Try the word of God, okay? Proverbs a day, Psalms at night.
Try to stop using them Android phones.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that you can try except the storyline about mental illness. But yeah, like and once again, I understand the whole idea of it being a story. Like, because there's stories about, in movies and television about stories about racism, stories about misogyny, and eventually has a payoff in the end, or it shows the evils and the perils of said thing to show that these things are a real thing. But in the context of a WWE storyline, when the majority of people who are writing and or approving these storylines tend to be tone deaf because their writing rooms lack diversity, I highly doubt that it's meant to educate or it's meant to have a positive payoff in the end, especially if there's no good, solid creative direction behind these storylines. Right. Now, we're going to end the show, but before we end the show, I want to offer a couple of resources because you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. You never know what they're going through. And as a brand, Culture 316 is all about pushing the culture and conversation of professional wrestling forward into the 21st century. And dealing with 21st century issues deals with 21st century solutions as well. Those of you who are having thoughts of suicide, confidential help is available and it is free. You are not alone. At one point or another, everybody in this brand has gone through some form of depression, some form of anxiety. It does get better. And there is a hotline available for you to use. I'm going to read the number right now. Hopefully I'll be able to put it
know by heart.
It's 1-800-273-8255. It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It offers 24/7 support.
As well on the bottom.
On the bottom of this video, we will show that.
There's going to be a graphic.
There's going to be a graphic. It's going to show reach out to your healthcare provider, see what your health insurance covers, see if it covers mental health resources, because that is important. If you feel like you need to go get help, go get help. Do not keep your problems in, do not keep your things, do not keep your baggage in. If you have to unpack, because ultimately, consulting a therapist, consulting mental health resources, getting things off your chest, getting things off your mind, getting things off your heart will lead to a better you. And you are not alone. I'm going to say that one more time, because when you go through things like these, oftentimes you feel like you're crazy and you're bugging. You're not crazy. You're not bugging. I get it. He gets it. We all get it, because we've all been through it. So that's how I'm going to end the show. You are not alone. You can do this. And we are here. Well, I'm not a therapist. I hate you for singing that song, by the way.
No, and I was like, I don't know the rest of the words, so I can't finish it.
But that's how we're gonna end the show, man. Like, this is what we do. This is part of the reason why we did a podcast. It wasn't just to talk about wrestling; it's to talk about real life issues that are parallel to the professional wrestling universe, as well as in real life, as well as the mainstream culture. So, once again, this is Jay the Creative.
No, I know who I am.
Yeah, and we'll see y'all next week.